Hello, and welcome to Stories from the View, a podcast from the Pleasant View Senior Center in East Longmeadow. On this podcast, we invite East Longmeadow residents to tell us stories about their lives and events. And today's guest is Anne Sleith Corbis, and your host is Mary Genowan Kaplan. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric. Thank you so much. And Anne, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. This is very interesting.
Well, and it will get even more interesting as you begin telling us your story. Mm-hmm. I believe you first became a resident of East Longmeadow long ago at the age of 3. Tell us how that happened.
It seems like yesterday.
Okay.
Yes, I was born in Chicopee Falls, and my father had returned from the Pacific War, and he and my mom used to come horseback riding in East Longmeadow, and they loved the ruralness of it, having lived their early married life in Chicopee. So I think it must have been a thought in the back of their mind that if we ever decide to build a house, this is where we might want to raise a family. And as it turned out, that's what they did 3 years after I was born. My mother was pregnant with my second sister, Leslie. And I think they found that this was the time. And my dad had a very dear friend in the Marines from Westfield. And to this day, that man's family still owns a construction company. And so he and my dad decided to build our house. So one of my earliest memories is at the age of 3, being in the midst of all this construction, the fun of it as a child.
Oh, yeah. Nails.
Oh, my
goodness.
Saws
large
and
lumber.
wood. Oh, yeah. My dad was always comfortable around construction. I understood that he did some of that while he served also. Anyway, I have a lot of cute little memories of a teenage cousin boarding me up in a closet in the house that was in the process of being built, just to be funny, you know. And I don't remember it being a frightening moment. It was kind of a funny moment because I was comfortable with him. But I think, you know, when I look back, it was wonderful to see this happen. I mean, I was only 3 years old, but I was allowed to be over there probably on a weekend maybe with my mom to see what was actually going on. The rest of the time, of course, I would have been back home or getting ready to be going into preschool in Chicopee.
The anticipation.
Yeah.
All the steps.
So, you know, when I drive by the house now, I've always been very proud of the fact that my father built that house. He did a very good job. It's got good bones, and I hope it lives on for a long time. But, you know, when I was a teenager, he decided he wanted to put an addition on with a garage. So he had, at this time, we had 3 sisters, or I had 2 siblings. And he would go to work, and we were asked to work on the construction in the form of digging dirt.
But how wonderful.
But that was just part of it.
You were like the team.
Yeah, it was so cute. We signed our names on the wood construction on the inside of the garage. Things like that. It was little memories, you know, of being part of the big scope and big plan of my father's addition.
Wow. So do you have engineering or carpentry skills in your wheelhouse there?
You know, it's funny that you asked that because I went on to, in later life, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, but I ended up being a painter, artist, and I painted on wood. So there was a time in my life, and it was many years, that I had wood cut for me, and I bought old antique pieces of wood, and I painted on them, and then I went to shows throughout New England, displaying what I did. And I did that for about 30 years. So that wood became a big part of my life, let's put it that way.
Interesting. What a nice connection.
Yeah. So I love the smell of wood to this day. But going back to my early youth, I think East Longmeadow was a wonderful choice on my parents' part to reside here. It was such a quiet little town. very little traffic. I don't remember it being very busy. I grew up on Pleasant Street, which today is just one of the 7 roads coming off the Rotary, and we know they're all busy. It was nothing like that. A lot of the streets were not even built yet. We were built on the side of an apple orchard. The man that owned that apple orchard's last name was Ashley, and his farm is across the street from what is now the Episcopal Church. And so Mr. Ashley was just somebody, was a neighborhood farmer, and I do have memories of old Mr. Ashley in his little buggies, driving around the fields. Just a nice,
Tootling amidst the trees.
A lovely scenic, rural scene. We could see the Wilbraham Mountains from Pleasant Street. Nowadays, you can't see any of that because of the trees. But that was lovely, too, waking up and seeing the sunrise. I mean, how special is that? I see the sunset from where I live in town now. I made up for that. But I loved the thought that East Longmeadow was there for my parents and there for myself and my siblings. It was a wonderful time. It was very simple. I got involved early on, probably 7, 8, or 9, in the early years of the ELRA, East Longmeadow Recreation Association, playing softball. And there were 4 teams. I played on the Dragons. There was the Jets, the Comets, and the Green Sox. Those are the 4 girls softball teams. And I did that for several years. It was an early stage of what the rec department was. It got a little bit more official. That would have been the late 50s, I think, 56,
That's so
57.
cool. That's before girls' sports, Title IX, and all that.
Yeah, and it was quite...
Was even in anyone's
I was so
minds.
excited about it. I absolutely loved it. And we would play at Maple Shade School. That was the only place we played. It was definitely within the town teams.
The 4 teams.
Yeah, just these 4 teams. And I know on the East Longmeadow website, historical website, there's a lot of pictures of the Comets. So there must have been somebody in that group that kept pictures, because I've searched for years for my team and never seen them. And back
No
then,
dragons.
I know. I wish my father had pictures taken of us all playing, but I do remember still some of the names of the coaches and the girls that I played with. And I went all the way through school with them. That was, I was going to say, between the ages of 9 and maybe 14, something like that. It was a wonderful summer to look forward to. Oh, we're going to be playing again, getting back with the girls. And I think you remained on your same team every year. I don't think there was any movement between one team or the other. So I love that. I love that. I pursued athletics in high school too, because I was that way. It was just a love.
So did you played softball in high school also?
I did.
And
yes.
was
and field
there
hockey, I think, on the school teams, on the high school teams. I think even when I went off to college, I played tennis. I don't remember there being a girls' tennis team at East Longmeadow High School. I think I came in the second year of its existence, because I clearly remember talks in my neighborhood with girls older than me who were going to classical or going to tech high, and that I was going to have to make that decision. And I had family that went to tech. My mother went to tech. My father went to Chicopee High. So Chicopee was out of the picture, but it was something I definitely had to give thought to. And then all of a sudden, East Longmeadow was announcing they were going to build a high school. So I didn't get in there the first year, but it might have been the second year. We came in as sophomores and pursued the next 3 years to graduation in 1965.
What a pivotal point for the town
I
to
know,
have
and
their
look
own
what's
high
happened.
school.
I know.
And now we're building again.
A brand new one, a brand new high school, which I look forward to at least a walkthrough when it happens, But I did enjoy the athletics in town were a big part of my life. There was a farm on Elm Street. The name of the family that owned it was Lombardi, and it's where the present-day Graziano's building is. And I worked there, I think when I was 14 years old, you could work farms. They had a little farm stand, and myself and one other girl would be the ones who dealt with selling the produce to people who came in. Mr. Lombardi was a wonderfully warm Italian man who my mother had worked with at Pratt & Whitney when she was a young girl. So I think that's probably how that happened. My mother might have introduced me to the family. And he would come in from the fields with his truck, his open panel truck, and all those big baskets of vegetables on the back, and fill up our bins. And two of us girls, I don't remember who the other girls specifically, but there was always two of us, I think, there. And we stood down there all day long, and people pulled in a little dirt driveway in front of us and bought their vegetables, which you can do at Meadowbrook Farm these days, but that was, back then, I think it was the only vegetable farm in town.
What a great job, though.
It was fun.
It's, different people.
Yeah, I
and-
could take my bicycle from Pleasant Street to Elm Street. My mother never drove. And we didn't have a second car, which was not unusual back in the 50s for families to only have the one automobile for their dads to go off and work with every day. So riding your bicycle was your way of getting around town. It was a necessity. So it was always important to have a good working bicycle.
And there was less traffic.
So
So
it was
it's much
so safe.
safer.
Oh, it was so safe. I don't think my parents or I ever gave it any thought at all, honestly. But I remember every bike I ever had. I wish I had them now. Although I do still have a bike. Still have a bike. So yes, I did that when I was in my early teens. And it was a lovely experience. I probably didn't work more than 3 days a week. But it was that I did well with the public. I enjoyed the public, although I grew up very quiet and shy. I think I remained that way right through high school. I was social, but not terribly social. I don't think that's changed much today. I kind of like my own time. But it was just another part of the little puzzle pieces in my life was that working at an early age. Nowadays, kids have to be pretty selective as to what they're going to be doing for employment at that age. A lot of kids don't start till they're 16 when
And there
they
were
can
rules.
officially work.
All sorts of
So
rules.
many rules. Yeah, so
But
many
I-
rules.
Whatever way you worked wouldn't have broken any rules.
I don't think so.
No, these
And
weren't the times when anyone would take advantage.
Right, and we were always told by Mr. Lombardi that we could give a baker's dozen when people bought corn, which I thought was wonderful on his part, that you could get an extra ear. It was cute. And Mrs. Lombardi would come down every day with tuna fish sandwiches that you worked. So you didn't have to worry about working
Lunch
for-
was
yeah,
provided.
That was provided by Mrs. Lombardi, yeah. Lovely lady herself.
She took care of you.
She did.
I like that.
She did.
That's-
I don't remember there ever being an issue on my mother's part. She was home, of course, with two other children, as to was Anne going to be fed at lunchtime. So it was very nice that Mrs. Lombardi offered that. But that was in my early teens.
Did you have another job as you aged into your teens that you recall?
No, I think I did that right into high school. And it was just leisurely summer employment.
Softball, farm
right.
stand, doesn't sound too bad.
Exactly. I think I did defer my first year of college, and I stayed in town and worked at First Bank, which was Shawmut First Bank on Maple Street, where, what is there now? The Library? Is that where the library is?
Is that where the Walgreens is?
It could be.
maybe?
It's at that
yeah.
locale. Yes, yes. So there again, I didn't have a car. That was a summer after I graduated from high school. I got a job at the New Milton Bradley on Shaker Road. And I worked the assembly line for the summer. That was my first official, legal, probably paying into Social Security job. And I worked on a number of different job levels with assembly lines with a group of people that I never would have expected in my lifetime to have met in quiet little East Long Meadow. I mean, there were a lot of people from the city, a lot of young, wisecracking
The city
young men.
being Springfield?
Springfield, yes.
Oh,
The Springfield.
The city.
Yeah, the big city. So it was eye-opening for me.
Different folks, because
Absolutely
you've been
different.
to school with the same kids.
Yes, and the only time I ever traveled into Springfield was with my mom on the bus to go downtown Springfield when Springfield was very active. And we did all our shopping down there, all our clothing stores. There was no malls.
Now you have to talk about the stores just because it makes me smile.
Yes, Johnson's bookstore was my favorite because of the toys. There was no Toys R Us, of course. Loved Johnson's bookstore. Loved the back part of Johnson's bookstore, which was separated by a street behind the building, was where used books were sold and art supplies.
Now let's get into your art.
My art interest was back then, early on. I think I have clear memories of pestering my parents for me to buy some either colored pencils or something, maybe some kind of a drawing pad, something to doodle with. But I did love Johnson's bookstore, and I loved their toys. I have such clear memories of going downstairs and having the whole room just open up to me. And, of course, that's where Santa came at Christmas time, and he would give you a little gold coin about the size of a silver dollar, which I still have my coin. It says Johnson's Bookstore on it in Santa Claus's face. Loved going downtown. That was my big reason as a youth to go downtown, was to go to that toy store. Yeah. Come home with something, some little thing. But we did all our clothes shopping down there. My mother took me down to, oh my goodness, the Cricket Shop when I was a teenager. It was such a classy little place. I remember going there thinking, I can't believe I'm in here. It was so exciting.
I was thinking Forbes and Wallace.
Forbes and Wallace and
Steigers.
Oh, that were the go-to places, and multi-level elevator. That's how you got from one floor to the other. Loved walking in and seeing the mahogany cabinets and the lovely wood paneling. That intrigued me back then. Going back to my love of wood, I mean, it really did. I still this day, I just love looking and appreciating what people do on wood. But anyway, downtown Springfield was a busy, busy spot.
Happening place.
It was. And we dressed up to go downtown. Well, back when I was a teenager, little girls weren't wearing blue jeans when they went anywhere. If you had any sort of slacks on, I don't remember that they were actually denim, but we always dressed up to go downtown, as we did when we went to church. We always wore gloves, and on Easter and other special occasions, we wore little hats. It was a dress up. Nowadays, it's gotten very casual, but those are nice little memories of East Long Meadow. Getting the bus, I took the bus often by myself as I got into my teenage years. I was going to an orthodontist who was down on Chestnut Street in Springfield. So the only way to get from point A to point B was to get on the bus and go to Springfield. One time I got on the wrong bus coming home. That was interesting. I was down there for my orthodontist, and I got on the Long Meadow bus instead of the East Long Meadow bus. There was an old bus station, very old bus station, which is, I think, close to where that would be East Columbus Avenue is now. And it was sketchy, but as a teenager, I thought, well, this is fine. But you could never hear, at least I couldn't hear, the speaker system in the building.
Yeah.
And everything, it was horrible. And I misheard, and I got on the Long Meadow bus, and I remember just going up into Long Meadow thinking, well, this is a different route. And then we pulled into a little side street at the far end of town of Long Meadow. I ended up living in Long Meadow for over 30 years, so I know the town pretty well. And it was at the far end of Long Meadow Street near the Enfield line. And we pulled up in front of the house, and the bus driver, I was the only one on the bus at that point. The bus driver stood up and he said, I'm going in to have my lunch. Did we miss your stop? He never asked us beforehand. I said, well, I think I'm supposed to be in East Long Meadow. And I must have misunderstood. He said, well, don't worry about it. I'm just going to go in and I'll grab a sandwich for you too. So I sat on the bus while he went in and had his lunch. And then he came back out and he gave me half a sandwich, and we went back to Springfield, and I got on the right bus, and I got home. And there was no cell phones, of course,
Right,
and no
you
way of
couldn't tell
calling. My
people.
mother was probably frantic. I don't remember now.
But you sound very calm, though, for a
I think I was. I was probably so naive that I just
yeah.
assumed he was a bus driver and he was going to be fine and take care of me.
You'd
And,
figure
yeah.
out where you were.
And when we pulled up in front of his house, I don't think I had any, misconceptions that this was going to have a bad end to it. He just was pleasant looking me in, and he just said, well, I'm going to go in and have my lunch, and I'll bring out you a bite to eat, and then we'll get you back to the city if that's okay. And I said, that's fine. And I just patiently sat and waited for him to return.
I don't know, Anne, you've got a good face and kind eyes. People just keep giving you sandwiches. I like this.
It's true. This day, I still love a good sandwich. But that was my mode of transportation. I think my father, when I was working at Milton Bradley that summer, I think he must have dropped me off. I don't have any memory of how I got there, which is sad to say at this point in my life, but I am in my late 70s. So I did get there, and I got there 5 days a week. So I'm assuming he dropped me off, and maybe someone brought me home. I did have a cousin that worked there in the building process. The building was still being finalized, and this cousin was working on these asbestos in the ceilings, which at the time, of course, wasn't
A problem.
anything you gave any thought to.
No.
Yeah. But that was a fun summer, and it was after that I got the job at Shawmut First Bank on Maple Street, and I was going to work and save money to go to school. So I did that for a whole year, and I worked in what they called the data processing center. Computers were starting to become something we heard about. And the second floor was like a bookkeeping office. The first floor was the standard bank windows, and the manager and the tellers were downstairs. So I worked on the telephones talking to people who called in with problems with their banking accounts, checking accounts. So they had to go through 4 of us who sat by these telephones all day long, and we sat in a circle, and we each had our own little station, and we handled people's checking account and savings account issues. Everything was being done by paper at that point, but the papers were being inputted to the computers, and that's what was behind this magical door, which we weren't allowed to go in. The men that worked with the computers were very sophisticated and very, I thought they all looked like they knew something that we didn't know. I mean, it was an odd feeling. I remember knowing one of them who came with this really classy sports car every day and parked in the parking lot. And I thought, boy, I've never known anybody to have such a neat looking car, That goes on to another part of my life with old cars. But anyway, working there, I learned how to do bookkeeping, which wasn't anything I was prepared to do. I never did a business courses in high school other than personal typing. Lovely ladies, mostly housewives, that worked there. And there was a wall with, hard to believe, an entire wall of just filing cabinets. And each person that had an account in that bank had a file drawer. Wow. So as the checks came through the bank and were processed, we had to hand file those checks. You can't even imagine doing that nowadays. No, not at all, not at all. That the process that the records that were being kept of those checks had already been done, and this was the last process, was to put them in the filing cabinets. So you sat on little stools with wheels, And I did that just to replace somebody that might have called in sick or something. That was there again. It was a group of lovely housewives who turned out to be lifelong friends. The women I met there were just wonderful, and 90% of them were East Long Meadow residents. I think 1 or 2 took the bus in from Holyoke to work for the bank, or they had worked for Shawmut, I believe, had a branch in Holyoke, and they ended up working out here in the suburbs. So I did that for a year, and then I went away to school in Rhode Island and got a degree in education, teaching elementary education. And I came back home and started looking for work, and ended up not getting a job within the first 6 months of looking. I was very frustrated because there had been this bulk of, remember now, I've been out of school for a year, so the kids I graduated with from East Long Meadow High were already out a whole year in the job force. And I found finding a job that was what I was looking for difficult in that score. I mean, I was offered a job in Vermont, but I really wasn't interested in leaving the state. So I ended up going downtown Springfield, and I got a lovely job with Payne, Weber, Jackson, and Curtis stockbrokers in the New Valley Bank Tower. And so I did that for 2 years. That was also very interesting work. And I soon became married, and we lived in Springfield, my husband and I, off of Sumner Avenue, and it was easy to get in and out of the city. I could take the bus every day. I did have a car at that point. When I got my first job, I bought myself a 1970 MGB convertible, and I was just in heaven with it. It was glacier white. It was my
Who wouldn't be in heaven?
It was my little baby. I just love that car. So that got me around for several years. But I did take the bus into Springfield to work because it was more convenient. That car stayed in
Those
the
were the
driveway.
days.
Yes,
when
exactly. It was so
people
much
would do
easier.
what-
I
yeah.
think I was a 5-minute walk to the bus stop, so it was much easier.
And this was a pretty fancy car.
It was, and I didn't want to park it in the city, actually. And the route was just too easy to take down Sumner Avenue into Springfield. Why pay for parking? I was looking at it that way too because I was earning money that I wanted to save. My husband and I, of course, wanted to buy a house, so that came into play. Within a short time, we bought a house here on Parker Street in East Long Meadow, and until my son was born, we moved. Soon after he was born, we moved to Long Meadow, and I remained there for another 30 years. But my parents resided here. My parents stayed here, so there was always a lot of back and forth, I think I've watched East Long Meadow change so much over the years, and it has become so busy, and I can't even imagine. My parents have been gone since 2005, and I can't even imagine how they would handle the traffic and the busyness of this town now. It's lovely. It's stretched its wings out. It's grown a lot. There's a lot of new streets that have got beautiful, beautiful homes. But it's different. It's different from when I grew up. There's no doubt about it. It's not the little quiet rural town that it once was.
No, we call it the East Long Meadow rush hour. When you're trying to get down
Try not to go
Shaker
through the
Road
Rotary.
and the Rotary but we're Western Mass, we're spoiled. If you have to wait through two traffic lights, we think, oh my gracious, what is this?
I mean, I'm so used to that Rotary, I joke with people that I could go through it blindfolded. I mean, it's just
Some do,
so
I
much.
believe.
I
Yeah.
think some do. Yes, I do. My younger sister had several incidents in the center of town. And not her fault either. They were just people going the wrong way around the Rotary.
The wrong way.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
I have
haven't s-
experienced that.
It's an odd
it
feeling.
leaves you with your mouth open,
It's like, oh, they're not going the right way.
and you can't really say,
Yeah.
turn around.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just trying to think, going back when I was, probably I moved here when I was 3 years old. So I'm thinking from the time I got on my bicycle and I was allowed to go down to the center of town by myself or with my neighborhood friends, we would go to the old B&B Market, which is now where
East Village Tavern
East Village
is.
Tavern
Right.
is, yes.
Yep.
And it was a bus, I think. I think it had been a building beforehand, but no, it was a bus first, and I think then they added on to it. But I knew the Bean family, and my mother did her shopping there. Popular Market was also in town, across the street. I think that might have been where Rocky's is now, or in that vicinity. So that was
I thought maybe it was in the plaza where
Dave's Food Town was.
right, there was Dave's too.
Right.
Oh, well, that's right. Popular Market. I believe that's maybe where the library is now. Does that ring a
That
bell?
could be. Dave's
I've
was
seen photos,
Dave's Food Town was definitely over in that shopping center
Yeah.
where Mario's is now.
Right.
Yes,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
But my mom did Popular Market
Yep.
and B&B, and B&B, of course, had all fresh meat, and they grew. They didn't grow, but they raised their own lamb, and we always had fresh lamb. To this day, I'm a big lover of lamb. But as kids on bicycles, yes, we went to B&B because they had penny candy.
Okay.
So that was our go-to. Yeah, that was definitely our go-to place. And the other place that I remember frequenting when I was young was they called it the East Long Meadow Pharmacy, and it was on Shaker Road, right behind what was the Village Smitty, and before that was Nooney's Hardware. At that V, when you come into the Rotary, you look at Shaker and Prospect. There's a building there. It's an old wooden clapboard building right now.
Right.
That was Nooney's Hardware when I was
Yeah,
a kid.
I had heard that was a hardware.
Yes, and Mr.
Yeah.
Nooney
Yeah.
was always in there. It was his store. My dad used to send me down for nails. I would go on my bicycle and get
Yeah.
bags of nails as he needed them to work on his house. So Nooney's Hardware, I was very familiar with that place. East Long Meadow Pharmacy sold comic books. So they had a back door on Prospect Street, so you could go in the back door and downstairs. So a very close friend of mine on Pleasant Street, he and I would go down on our bikes, go in that back door, and try to get away with reading those comic books without buying them until the owner came out and said, reminded us, if you want to buy them, they probably were 10 cents a piece, But that was a vivid memory there of going to that store. I loved comic books back then. And then the library, of course. Spent a lot of time there. Spent a lot of summers reading, what was the girl detective?
Nancy Drew.
Nancy Drew. I think I read every Nancy Drew there ever was. But that was a different library too. It wasn't the same as what we're looking at today. It was much smaller, and we went there after school like every high school kid did, and used the encyclopedias. Nowadays it's computers, so there was that difference too.
And they can get it at home.
And they can get it on their phone.
Excellent. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of changes. An awful lot of changes.
There are.
An awful lot of changes.
So tell us about your art. When did you start and how?
Well, I drew a lot as a child. My mother was very artistic, and she actually was going to be going to the Rhode Island School of Design out of high school, and her father passed away. So she needed to work. And she was living with her mom, so that didn't happen. So I grew up with a mother who was constantly sketching things one way or the other. And I just thought that was a fun thing to do, and I drew myself, and I didn't really apply myself until I was in college, and I took some design courses in school, and just played with it, really just played with it. It was nothing I ever thought of as a serious direction to take with my life, but looking back now, I wish I had. I so wish I had thought that I could have made a career of that, because I'm fascinated on one level with art in museums, and people have to restore that art. People have to spend time fixing it to make it doable for the public, and I like just sitting and working by myself with my art. So I think I would have taken a different path had I thought a little bit more seriously that could have been a career path. And it wasn't in that regard, but by the time I was married and had this young child, I thought, I'm going to get back to my artwork. I think I'm going to try it. So I started visiting a man in Hamden who was a art instructor, and he had a big barn behind his home off of Main Street. And he worked with oils, and I went to him for a couple of years just taking lessons, and it was fun. There was usually one or two other pupils with him, and so there was that little bit of background. I still have a couple of things. I think they're in my attic. They're not on my wall because they weren't worthy, but I learned how to mix. Started to learn how to mix with color theory and things like that. And one day, I was invited, and there again, I'm living in East Long Meadow with a 2 or 3 year old, and one of my neighbors came over and invited me to the Shaker Bowl to join a women's bowling league. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, that's a good idea. I've been kind of athletic most of my life. That should be a good way of meeting people. So I took that upon myself. I loved it, and I met a very interesting woman who was quite artistic. And she and I got chatting, and next thing you know, she and I are talking each other into doing a craft show at a local church. She was an acrylic painter, and I was dabbling but really not doing anything. Still home with this little toddler at home. And I said, well, sure, I'll do it with you. Let's give it a try and see what happens. Well, it was just before Christmas, and it was here in town at the old St. Michael's Church. And darned if we didn't sell what we painted. And we went home with a little money in our pocket. And I thought, well, this is different. So she and I, we just decided to work on that. And I worked with her. We became best friends. And over time, she refined her painting, and I started to drift towards this wood end of things. She also worked with wood, but I was more inclined to work with old pieces of wood that I could find. I'm a big fan, and always have been since the 70s. My husband and I were great visitors to the Brimfield flea markets. Ah. And I could pick up wonderful little pieces, to bring home and work on. And so that got me started. And then our business together, this other person and myself, she and I were doing so well. We were in the what they call the Deerfield craft show series.
A very
juried
event.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is fancy.
It didn't have the spring one when we started. This would be in the 1980s. I think they had only had a couple of years of actually doing their shows. And 3 years into this Deerfield series, and our artwork was juried. Went, oh, this is a great venue for us to display. So we did their September show, their June show, and their December show was something new they started after a few years at the Big E in West Springfield. That was a big deal. Because it just attracted so many more people than the local shows in Deerfield. But it was still wonderful. And to this day, I think it's changed a lot. The artists have changed a lot over time. But so have people's ideas of what they like in their homes. And what we were doing turned out to be things that people would display in their houses, But I did that for 30 years.
And you were an entrepreneur.
I before the word even,
Right.
It was just something we did. We loved.
Just something we did.
It was social. We were out there meeting great people. It was fun to talk to people. To this day, I'm down to like 2 shows a year. I love the standing behind the table and talking to the people. Whether I sell anything or not, that's not the point in my life. This point in my life, it's just fun to see people, and. I still like to dabble. Or during COVID, I started painting paint by numbers. You couldn't go anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I certainly couldn't paint anything that was going to sell at that point. So I thought, well, maybe I'll try these paint by numbers. And they become so elaborate nowadays. Oh, my goodness, you can't believe that they are paint by numbers. Mm-hmm. They're so elaborate. And I did those as a teenager in the summer, going back to my early teenage years. That was another thing I did do, was paint the early paint by number series. Can't think of the name of that series right now, but I have one of my originals in my art room, hanging on a wall. I'm glad I have that. But it gave me incentive during COVID to do something. And I was cranking them out as fast as I could order them. And I just kept them, or I shared them with somebody. I would order something that I thought was relevant to that person, whether they be living in New York City or lived in a rural situation. I would pick out something I could give away to them for, a gift or a holiday or whatever, So I still do that. Because I just
And
love,
in her free time.
and I just love the feel of that paintbrush in my hand. I can't get that. It's just part of me. So I don't consider myself a great artist, but I did have fun doing it all the years I did it. It was fun.
For 30 years, I'm guessing you have something really to show for your efforts.
People would say it's your job, and I said I don't look at it as a job. It's just fun, and yet it wasn't a hobby either. It was more than a hobby because I had to dedicate myself to, starting my day and just doing it, just being active and doing it because I would have a show in another 3 weeks.
You can't sit at a table with 2 pictures on it. You have to start off with a few more.
I think my girlfriend and I, at the peak of the shows that we did, especially with the Deerfield series and other shows we were doing around New England, we were doing about 15 shows a year.
So
that's a
when's
lot.
your next show? Now I'm curious.
Now it's not until December.
That's okay. We hope to still be around in December.
I just do holiday things now, and I've whittled down. I've gotten away from the wood. It became difficult to not only buy wood, because if you buy wood by the linear foot, it's so expensive these days you can barely touch it. That's why homes are so expensive, I think, to buy, is wood after COVID too became very, very high in price. So I stopped buying wood and cutting it. I did have people cutting for me at one point. So I started looking more at Brimfield Flea Market and tag sales for things like that. I love painting on old sleds. I look for antique sleds that are in bad condition. Sleds.
Okay.
Winter sleds.
Winter sleds.
Winter sleds. I do that.
So when I
So that's
drive by
one thing.
porches with
Yeah,
beautiful
people-
sleds on it, it might be your work.
Well, it might be. I mean, that's just one thing that kind of distinguished me from other people. Now I see a lot of people doing that when I go to other shows. But painting will always be with me, I guess, which is wonderful. It soothes me. It does. I just love it. I'm working on one right now. I just finished an Italian street scene because I was going to Italy with my family to visit my grandson who's studying abroad, and I thought, well, I'm thinking Italy. I think I need to get a paint by number, so I picked up a lovely street scene with flowers and decorative pots in front of the stone cobbled streets, and it just works.
It sounds like Italy is a pretty good place to check out some art. Did you have a chance to do that in your travels?
I did. I there's so much more to see there. But I was fortunate enough to go to one of the galleries, the Uffizi Gallery, which has Michelangelo's, and it has Leonardo da Vinci. There was just untold numbers. I can't think of the Italian names now. But to see them in person was just beyond description. The richness of the paintings were, the frames themselves were art. I couldn't get over the luxurious look to these frames. And of course, it's crowded situations. You can't get as close as you want to either in some of these places. But that was the one big gallery I was on my bucket list to see if I was going to go to Italy. So, and the beautiful sculptures around town, the architecture overwhelmed me in my visit. I could not believe the 14th and 15th century streets I was walking down and looking at these beautiful facades. Just gorgeous, just gorgeous. And so much history. And I would go back next week just to see so much more in other cities.
If anyone is interested in a traveling companion.
I've got my arm up in the air. But yes, I think art became my life, and it really was a wonderful experience to not have to go out and punch a clock every day of my life. I did for 12 years before COVID started, I did get a part-time job at a local college. And that was fun until COVID arrived. So I had been there about 12 years, and it was just looking for something to do in my free time. And I enjoyed working with the young girls. It was a women's college, and it was fun. It was fun. Then COVID came along, and I kind of wrapped everything up at that point and thought, no, it's time to go home and paint.
You pivoted, though, and you found
Yeah. I
a
found
way
something.
to continue your passion.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
great.
It was fun. It was fun. So anyway, I think, I look at East Long Meadow as being a great place to raise a child, and I think it's probably even better these days for the education is wonderful here in town. The homes are lovely. All that's offered to our kids, whether it be in the recreational department or in our school education system, is just, it's top notch. It's top notch.
Good people in a good community.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's wonderful. Do you have any parting words for us, Anne? I have so enjoyed hearing your stories.
Well, I found this very interesting. I came in not knowing exactly what to expect, but thank you for making this smooth and so comfortable talking to you.
Stories from the View.
And as I told you when I first arrived here today, it was a day that this is a building I substitute taught in back in the 70s. So I'm familiar with the building. I've watched its transition over time, and I do encourage people to come here because it certainly has a lot to offer the senior population
Absolutely.
in town.
Painting class on Fridays.
Yeah.
Poke your nose in on your
Yes.
way out. Check out the beautiful art there. Almost like Florence, Italy. Almost.
We'll say it's almost.
Absolutely.
Botticelli is the other name I was trying to remember just now, with the Botticelli artwork. So please go back and look at Leonardo and look at Botticelli and look at Michelangelo. Oh, Michelangelo just makes my heart beat a little faster. Just wonderful place. So if you have an opportunity, go to Italy, folks.
Wise words, wise words. Thank you so much for coming
Well, thank
in.
you for having
Great
me.
fun hearing your story.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. So thank you so much, Anne, for being here today. Anne Sleith Corbis was our guest today. So thank you very much for being here today, Anne. The Stories from the View podcast. Well, this thing is available on the LCAT 01028 channel on YouTube. We're also on Spotify. If you have a story you'd like to share on the program, contact Pleasant View Senior Center Director Emily Constantino by stopping by the Pleasant View Senior Center or by calling Emily at 413-525-5436. Emily also has an email address that I'm now going to give you, and it's long. emily.constantino@eastlongmeadowma.gov. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Stories from the View.